This time you will fall before my might. Come on. Yes!
Welcome, everybody, to the Gary Con stream. My name is Michael. I am from the German pen and paper or TTRPG website pen-and-paper.info. And I am very pleased to host this show for today. And I'm joined by my lovely support, Janos. Welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
Never mind. Thank you for being here. Are you excited? Our first
Of
English
course.
stream, I guess.
Yeah.
First one ever.
So pardon our English.
Pardon our English at this point, right? So, furthermore, I would really like to introduce our honored guests at this point, and I would like to say hello to Sandy and Gerard. I hope I didn't butcher your name. Gerard was right.
It's all good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for being here. And I would like to start with the first question already. And that would be, tell us who you are, what you do in the world, what's going up with you, why are you here?
Sandy, go ahead.
Well, hi, I'm Sandy. I'm working at the cultural center here in Luxembourg, so I'm doing lots of stuff with culture. I'm part of the Lux Con since the very first beginnings, and yeah, what am I doing in the world? I'm being crazy, weird, and I love life. There you go.
Cool. As we all are.
One of us. Hi, I'm Gerard. I'm the president of Science Fiction and Fantasy Society Luxembourg. I'm the coordinator of LuxCon since the very beginning as well. In my real life, I'm an English teacher in high school. I teach media classes. I host our robotics club at school as well. Dad to 2 daughters, servant to 2 cats, and walker of a dog.
Classics.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for being here. And the next question I got for you guys is, what exactly is the LuxCon? Would you tell us about it?
Go ahead, President.
Yeah, what is LuxCon? It's hard to define. I think we'll spool back time a little bit, do the old Wayne's World effect or something. The LuxCon is the national convention for science fiction, fantasy, and horror fans in Luxembourg. Since Luxembourg has this unique geographic location where we're stuck in between all kinds of places, right from the very start, Sandy was part of that team. We said that we weren't going to do something that was purely for Luxembourg, but we were going to do something that was for Luxembourg, for France, for Belgium, for anybody in the greater region, anybody around who might want to come to the event. We were inspired by San Diego Comic-Con. We were inspired by comic festivals. We were inspired by live role-playing. We were inspired by big fan events that happened close to us that we might have visited. We were inspired by the FARC in Saarland. We were inspired by RPC, the role-play convention in Cologne. We were inspired by everything really. A lot of us come from gaming. The club that organizes it, Science Fiction Fantasy Society, was first created as a club for Magic the Gathering players because we needed the club to rent a space to have tournaments in. And then somehow the shop that was selling Magic the Gathering cards had this weird racks in the back where there were these books about vampires and masquerades and dungeons and dragons and Mac Warrior, and You name it. I mean, all the stuff that was up in the 90s. And so we kind of explored that area as well. We started watching anime together, and Star Wars and Star Trek and so on and so forth. So basically, you name it, it was sci-fi, it was fantasy in the 80s, and we kind of got into it. And then we did some role playing, we did some live role playing. We started doing some kids animation with a local medieval festival, and that basically just sort of grew the group. Live role players joined us, people who were into anime joined us, and then eventually it was just like, okay, well, these meetings are kind of fun, but I think we've gotten everybody's brothers and sisters and cousins and acquaintances into this group. And we need to do something to address everybody else, and that's where the idea of this convention sort of came up, where we're just saying, okay, well, if we just put something on, if we get a couple of guests in, if we talk to a couple of people and make it a bit of a festival, a bit of a party, people will show up. And Sandy will remember this one. We set up for 500 people at the start. We said 500 people would be great. I mean, there's 25 of us, there's 30 of us. If we get 500 people to this party, that'd be awesome. Sandy, how many people turned up on the first weekend?
1,500.
Wow.
Oh,
Something
wow.
like that, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody was just saying, "Oh, why haven't you done this before?" And we're like, "We didn't know that you all would come."
Who are you people? We don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, the anecdote goes that one of the first couple or group of cosplayers that came, we were just like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! There's cosplayers at our convention! Yay, we've made it!" And we're like saying, "Hey, hello, thanks for coming. Where are you guys from?" And they were like, "Just from the next town over." I was like, "Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
okay.
guess we didn't need to go looking that far, but yeah." But yeah, no, it was a fantastic weekend. Everybody was just sort of high on happiness hormones, I think. And then the next week was just like, okay, we really did make this happen, and then sort of we rolled with it. And then the convention grew to 2,000 and some people, 3,000 and some people, to where the location we had was just bursting out of its seams, and then yeah, it has only grown since.
Awesome. Got a follow-up question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did the location explode
Yes.
the first time? Did it literally explode?
Not the first time, no. But by the third year, we had. I distinctly remember wanting to come downstairs,
Yeah.
and not being able to move because people were going downstairs and the stairs were full. People were trying to come out of another room, and they sort of pushed into the hall. At the same time, it had started raining outside, so people were trying to get in. And at that convection point, there was no movement whatsoever.
Yeah.
The second story is that the local fire chief came to the convention, and the janitor, the man who takes care of the location, was basically saying, "Hey, you can go in there as a private person, enjoy yourself, or you can go in there as a fire chief and just stay outside and have a beer with me," because we were not really obeying code anymore at that point in time.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. And then the Monday or the Tuesday, we got a message from the local council, from the commune, and they were saying, "Would you mind taking those photos off the internet, because that's not exactly legal. How many people you had standing on that balcony?" And yeah, so that was the year where we were like, yeah, this is not going to work out well. We need to look around for something bigger. And then that's basically been our quest ever since. Well, it still isn't easy because we are a purely sort of, we're by fans, for fans. We're completely volunteer force. We don't have the money of some of these professional conventions that can just sort of hire out an exhibition center and just run stuff for profit. and charge whatever they want for an entrance ticket. So we've basically been stuck with going from places that will somewhat support us by cutting rent or making rent a little bit cheaper. So we've been collaborating with the National Youth Organization, a government organization that funds all kinds of events and organizations that work with young people. They've been a great support, and they've basically provided us with a room for the 16, 17, and 18, or we were there for 3 years, and then we moved around again. But that's been working really well. The problem is that not a lot of places are laid out for a convention that you do, because you want to have some spaces for talks. You want to have spaces where you can just have a workshop quietly. I mean, I think you guys might remember RPC, and then the talks and the readings and that sort of stuff were in these sort of walled off spaces, but the walls reached about 2.5 meters, 3 meters high,
Yeah.
when the whole hall was about 6 meters, 8 meters high, something like that. So you still have noise coming in from the top.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an ideal solution, but that's just the plight of the small conventions, I suppose.
Yeah. I must imagine. I just have this image in my mind where you just are looking for the best location that isn't cracking from all places. So
Yeah.
that must be the hardest quest for you guys, right? Or is there anything else that you would say is the hardest part at this point?
There's a couple of things. Location is one, and then trying to get people there. That's the other. Making sure that people know what's going on. I mean, the joke we keep telling ourselves, and the situation that keeps coming up because we're stuck in Luxembourg, is that we go to Germany, and somehow the Germans all think that we speak French in Luxembourg. So they say, "Oh no, I'm not going to go to Luxembourg because it's a French-speaking country, and I'm not going to be able to get on," and all that stuff. And then you go to France. You tell them, "Hey, come on over to Lux Con." They're like, "Oh no, you all speak German over there. We won't be able to understand what's going on." Same thing happens in Belgium. And so we constantly have to rely on people from those areas that we know to tell people, well, no, when you go there, everybody speaks everything. It's 4 languages completely integrated. If you don't know what to do, you just start with English, and then you find a common language, maybe French, maybe it's Luxembourgish, maybe it's Klingon, who knows. That's the sort of thing where we're getting people there. I mean, everything costs money these days. It's not easy to get the newspapers to sort of say, "Hey, there's a cool event happening here. Why don't you come there?" It's going to be like, "Well, we could tell our readers that you are happening, but that's going to cost you. Also, we're going to be sponsors of your event, right? But pay us money instead." So that's sort of complicating the issue, because mass media is going to, at the same time, they are going to produce 2 pages filled with colorful images of role players and cosplayers and merch from the event on the Monday or the Tuesday after the event. But leading up to it is kind of hard to get the message out there. Thankfully, we've got some friends, we've got some geeks and science fiction, horror, fantasy fans, role players in various media places that are sneaking messages in, that are sneaking interviews with our guests in, that are doing something to promote the event from their humble possibilities.
Awesome.
Exactly.
I just got a question in my mind, just rising up about the languages. So here's a little sneak peek from behind the scenes. I didn't know which language Luxembourg is talking at this point, right? And Janosch just told me 5 minutes ago they do speak German. Don't be worried.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So that's interesting. You got 4 languages going on. Did I get that correctly?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
most likely. Well, most people will talk a minimum of 4 languages, and then
Wow.
there are the Portuguese guys, the Italian guys, people from the East. There's such a melting pot of languages here in Luxembourg, and it's pretty awesome. Everyone does understand one of those languages, so
That's
Pretty fun.
insane. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in
And
my
it's also
job,
fun for our program.
yeah,
Sorry.
in my job, I mean, English is always considered a second language.
Yeah, sure.
But by the time I start teaching the kids, they're 13, 14 years old. I'm rolling in there with probably their fourth, fifth, sixth language in some cases, because that's just the way things happen. Yeah, yeah. I mean, not
Crazy.
everybody speaks all the languages
Sure.
equally well, and not everybody prefers one language or all languages equally, because you get people who are just like, oh no, I don't like French, but that's the way that French is taught in high school. It's just so formal and so like
Yeah.
by the by. But yeah, we get German and French media, we get English media, and so we're just stuck speaking all these languages, and then you have to separate your expressions one from the other. So it's just hell sometimes, because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
think of the German word, but the English saying is in your head, and you have to talk to this French person in front of you, and you just can't think of that French word for it. So you just try all the languages, but the one that you actually need at that point in time.
Yeah, I feel that. I was raised trilingual, I guess. So 3 languages, English, Polish, and German. And I was bragging about it, but here I am sitting in front of a country that's talking 4 in a row. So wow, that's insane. Janos, do you have a question following up? I think
Yeah,
you are
well-
next here to ask, I guess.
Yes. Besides being so multilingual, what is something that makes the LuxCon so special for you or for the visitors?
Oh, that's a hard one.
I would say
Yes,
it's
we're going into deep
it's our
con
culture.
philosophy now. Sandy, you go ahead.
Yeah, I would say it's the sheer size of the LuxCon. We are a big convention for Luxembourg, but we are a very small convention for all the countries around us. So everyone knows everyone at the LuxCon. Some people join us every year, annually, all the time, telling us, well, yeah, I skipped the German Comic Con just to come to you guys. It's the vendors, the authors that are coming all the time, just because we are such a small convention with such a cozy event. Everyone knows everybody, and I think that's pretty fun for LuxCon. It's one of our main points. It's for everyone, and everyone knows everybody, and that's cute.
Yeah, to use a famous D&D player's catchphrase, it's family. To use Vin Diesel's catchphrase there. I mean, people say, yeah, it's like a big family meeting. They
Yeah.
love to come every year, and it's basically seeing your big LuxCon family again.
Yeah.
Okay. You said 1,500 in the beginning.
Yeah.
What are your
Numbers.
numbers now?
The biggest we had was over 5,000.
Oh, wow.
And we are the last year's event was a post-COVID event, and we were literally, I think, 2 weeks. Sandy, was it 2 weeks after the
Yeah.
COVID measures had basically been abolished, so people could go out again, and we didn't need to wear masks and any of that stuff. Last year we had 4,000 people at the event.
Yeah.
So we expect there to be more than that this year, because the COVID regulations are pretty much a thing of the past. Yeah, and so we hope that more people will come out, because last time we could still feel, right, that people were still a bit, can we, can't we, is it okay, is it safe, should we? So people were still quite unsure about the whole thing. But
Also,
I
there
think
were
now
lots
this
of
year people are going to be much more comfortable to head out there and then to visit the event.
Yeah, there were so many visitors from outside of our country that didn't come because their regulations didn't lift at that time. So
Yeah, that's right.
there were much more local people visiting
Yeah.
us last year, since we had no regulations. But for France, there was a different story. For Belgium, was a different story. For the German people,
Germany. Yeah.
Germany, yeah, right.
You just lifted the regulations about a few weeks ago, I think, here. So
Yeah, a few weeks.
Mm.
Yeah,
this year's going to be a lot of Germans. Prepare.
Yeah,
Prepare.
I think the Robert Koch Institute was still listing us as orange when we ran Lux Con last year. So it was a bit, not everybody was comfortable. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this year and hopefully seeing a lot of the friends that we've missed seeing for the last so many years.
Yeah. I would like to take the time to look at the chat and ask you guys if you have any questions at this point to the both of them. And if you want, you can type down and I'll ask the questions at the end. But,
yeah, happy to take some questions on our chat. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. I got a follow-up question in regards of the speciality of the Lux Con. You said it's like a family. And I would like to ask you, in your opinion, what's the most special thing that makes people come back to LuxCon? Is it the family part, and why do you think that's it?
It's certainly true for the vendors and the exhibitors who come to just sort of enjoy the atmosphere. I think as far as visitors, they enjoy the sort of the wide spectrum of things happening, the amount of things on offer. Because the group that organizes it's me, old role playing fuddy duddy, blah blah blah, and then there's the younger generation. I mean, Sandy's pretty much grown up with all kinds of different media that weren't around when I was younger, and then we have even younger people joining the organizing group now, and they're talking about things that I just go, what? And so it sort of brings in my Reed Richards cosplay here, but I think it's the diversity. We try to cater for everybody. We had people saying, "Oh yeah, but you didn't cover this and didn't cover that," and we basically go, "Okay, do you want to do that? Do you want to run that next year? Please join us. Run that thing. We're happy to provide the space for you to do that." And they're like, "What? It's that easy?" Yes, it's that easy. We are I don't know what did Monty Python call it in the Holy Grail, the socio-anarchist commune or something like that, where if you have an idea, you just bring it forward and we'll see how we can make it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So the generational span and
I
the
think
legacy,
that's one
so
of
to speak,
the
right?
points, because the Lux Con is not only one generation, but multiples. Well, Jera's kids are already organizing some of our program points. So.
Yes, we have organizers' kids now actively taking part in programming.
Yeah,
so
parenting goals.
The future is guaranteed. Catch them when they're young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I think it's also the diversity of it. We are very diverse for a convention. It's not only role play or literature, but it's also a bit of video gaming. It's we have knights, medieval people swinging swords at the parking lot behind the venue. So it's from everything to everywhere, and it's pretty fun. So it's like Jera said, you have an idea, come on, bring it on. So that's cool.
Yeah. Cool. Following that up, I would like to ask you, what was the part of LuxCon that progressed the most over the years? That's a hard question, I know.
For me, the first thing that comes to my mind is getting guests that I wouldn't have thought of ever making it to Luxembourg. And the first time around, it was, but we need a literature guest. We really need somebody in literature that we can invite as a guest to give us some sort of con credibility type of thing. And a friend of ours was basically like, saying that, yeah, I know somebody, I know an author, I can ask. He's, I think the connection was the Game of Thrones fan club or something. And like, oh, he's also in the Game of Thrones fan club. I can ask him, he'll come over. And yeah, we haven't been able to shake the guy for the last 10 years or so. He's coming again this year. He's not missed the Lux Con, and he's always been here. But then, you write to somebody that you think, oh, wow, this is like my favorite author. I love to read their stuff. And you say, oh, Lux Con, would you mind attending? Like, yeah, I've heard great things about your convention. And I'll happily come. And they're like, oh my God, they've heard about me. Or about us, and then you're like, oh wow, okay, good, wow, that'll work, yeah, sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sandy, what about you?
I think the very same like you. Yeah, it's like we've got a bit of budget. Okay, how do we do that with our budget? We need someone to lure in and show him a small convention can be so beautiful. And if it happens, you're just standing there. Oh my God, we had this and that person here, and oh my God, yeah, that's I think the coolest part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Janos, you got one question, I guess.
Yes, a bit out of order, but I think you mentioned it a few minutes ago. So, do you see any like dips in age by your visitors? Are there more young people coming in or less young people?
It's pretty much across the board. We have young people coming in, your usual teenagers who have their pocket money that they spend on games or on manga or on merch or anything like that, and they'll come in to just sort of see other people, see who else is there, make some connections, talk to people, explore what's going on. You'll have others who come with their friends, little bit older people. You'll have families coming in because the mom or the dad was a fan of or is a fan of something in the wide field of geekdom, and they'll bring their children along because the children, of course, have been indoctrinated in one way or another. You'll get them dragging grandpa and grandma along with them as well because they remember Gojira when it first came to cinemas or something like that, and like, oh yes, I remember those lizard movies or giant octopuses or something in the cinemas when I was a teenager. You get people who have been long-time fans of science fiction literature. You get your comic book fans coming out as well, video gamers coming out because they like this, that, or the other. Science fiction and fantasy manga has always been around anyway. And so it's really transgenerational. You get children who are really young trying to get in on their own. We're like, sorry, we can't let you in unless you're this age without your parents. Yeah, you get them right up to people who have organized events for fans in Sandy, was it the early 80s?
Yeah.
Right, I think it was like 82, 83. When we organized the first LuxCon, somebody reached out to us saying, "Oh, you're not the first LuxCon.
Yeah.
Actually, the first LuxCon was," and then it was, I think, ZarCon 5, which was a Perry Rodan fan club convention that was happening in the basement of an Italian restaurant in 83. And of course, we invited that person to our first event to have an interview with them because that was like amazing. Yes, we need to talk to you. And then I remember that by the end of the event, that person came up to us and was like, "Oh yeah, this has nothing to do with LuxCon that we organized back then because this is something completely different. There's much more light, many more people, and many more girls."
That's good.
I got a follow-up question on this one. I just got follow-up questions. Just
That's
imagining
great.
all the
That's
way.
great.
I feel that nerd culture in general has progressed immensely in the last years
Mhm.
regarding this points, right? Like younger
Mhm.
people joining in and female people joining in, right? And my question would be if you feel the same with your Lux Con, right? If you have the feeling that it has progressed over the years in this sense, you know, that would be interesting to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from my point of view, we'll go chronologically, Sandy. Okay. From my point of view, I mean, I was a nerd in the 90s, and we were pretty happy to have a new episode of Star Trek or Babylon 5 or Stargate in the 90s, and I was like, oh wow, okay. And then I look at my streaming subscriptions today. I'm like, I can't catch up with all of this sci-fi and fantasy TV. I need to select. Back then, we would have just watched everything, but such is life. So, yes, there's definitely that. There's more on offer, which kind of shows that there's a market for it, which kind of shows that there are a lot of people watching it. I think you can go back to 99, 2000, 2001, where you get Star Wars coming back into cinemas. You get the first Spider-Man adaptation. You get Lord of the Rings. You get Harry Potter, which is absolutely important for the growth of fandom. Not so important for trans rights these days, but there you go.
Yeah.
Comic book adaptations, of course, huge. I remember running around with a Fantastic Four T-shirt in 97 or 98, and people looking at me going, "What the hell is that?" I said, "Well, it's a comic book. You should read them. They're really cool." And of course, back then, Die Fantastischen Vier were big in German, so everybody was like, "Oh, sort of the band." I'm like, "No, I like the band too, but this is the comic book." And yeah, so basically, you have all of this influx, and then I mean, Game of Thrones was just making fantasy water cooler talk every Monday. Sunday evening, you'd get the Game of Thrones episode, and the next day everybody was talking about Game of Thrones. People that I would never in the world have considered to become or to be geeks or nerds or whatever. Your high school sports jock would come up to me and say, "Oh my God, this Game of Thrones stuff is amazing." I would look at them and go, "Yeah, well, that's the kind of stuff that I was reading at high school when you guys were making fun of me, but okay, sure.
Well, fine.
Who's cool now?" That sort of thing, right?
Nerds taking over the world.
Sonia. Look at that. Yeah, that's one of the young ones who's helping to run conventions already.
Damn. Starting young.
Yeah.
I got a follow-up question on this one again, as always. What are your biggest nerd geekdoms? That's a question I would really want to get answered at this point.
Sandy, I think your list might be shorter if you make a list of the things that are not included.
Yeah. Oh my no.
No,
we can make a top list of the top three.
Sandy, I have a way to shorten it. The Taika-verse.
The Taika-verse it's oh gosh, for the moment I'm bleeding, okay? I'm bleeding.
For me, it all started with getting into Star Wars. I love to read books. I got into movie novelizations as well, and then I picked up this. Was it like the whole original trilogy novelizations in one book? And I was like, oh wow, Star Wars. This sounds interesting. Never heard of the films. Never really into them, and that just opened a huge world. I remember buying the VHSs to watch the films, and then I got into the West End Games role-playing game, the D6 one. I just managed to recently complete my collection of those, and the comics and all kinds of things involved there. So Star Wars is the big one. There's a lot of artwork out in my house about that as well, and then Blade Runner. Blade Runner is just mind-blowing. I love the film. I love the universe. I love cyberpunk in general. So those things are where it's at. Absolutely.
that's really hitting home with me because I got a tattoo from Blade Runner, the unicorn,
That's
on
amazing.
my
What do you get?
arm.
The unicorn?
The unicorn, right? In
That's
like
nice,
dot
yeah.
work on my right arm, so that's hitting home.
Yeah, I've been thinking about tattoos, but never really sort of crossed the threshold. And if I get one, it might probably be the first line of Neuromancer. The sky above the port was the color of the TV turned to a dead channel.
Yes.
Right?
Ridiculous. My nickname in Discord is Neuromancer, so hitting home again. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. And Sandy, what about you?
Well, I think it started for me with vampire lore. Everything
Oh, wow, okay.
vampire-ish in my teenage years. Yeah. I was an emo scene girl. Okay, I was very deaf affiliated, and I loved
Yeah.
everything what deaf means and so on. And I've
Yeah.
Interview with a Vampire was my go-to movie as a teenager.
Oh, wow.
And afterwards, there came the Harry Potter movies, which I hated at the very first screening. I hated Harry Potter. Well,
What?
surprise! Who opened a Harry Potter fan club here in Luxembourg?
What?
Yeah. It was funny. And for the moment, yeah, still vampire stuff, still fantasy. I found love in a gay pirate show. So awful. And, and yeah, I think everything fantasy, vampire-ish would be me. Yeah, still.
Cool. Awesome. So totally different kind of approaches, right?
And
Vampire
that makes
and
the
Star Wars, right?
vampires, Star Wars. We have people that come from the Society of Historical Anachronism as well, from the SCA. We have people that come from cosplay. People coming in from wanting to write, doing podcasts, and yeah, basically all walks of life, all kinds of things. Board game fans as well. Yeah, just across the board.
Awesome. Speaks from for your diversity, I guess. Awesome. Really
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Janos,
So I
you got a
think
follow-up question.
getting back to topic.
Yeah.
Yes,
Back to
topic
LuxCon.
Important.
So we're not drifting away into insanity. Where do you see the LuxCon this year, and what's special about it, and where do you see it in, like, I may say 5-10 years?
Wow.
Well, we see it very close this year, actually, because
It's in
we
April.
are,
yes?
Already.
yeah, it's the 15th and the 16th of April this year. So we are kind of like trying to extinguish small little fires all over the place. But yeah, I mean this year it's going to be a little bit smaller than last year. But last year it was just gigantic. It was the first year that we had put the event on for 4 days rather than Saturday and Sunday only. It was part of the local, the European cultural, or the European Capital of Culture program, and that was in Luxembourg this year, and we managed to find our way onto the official program of that. So we managed to get some budget from them. Of course, doing it just post-pandemic wasn't going to be the easiest thing. And then this year we just sort of take it easy. We do it a little bit slower. It's speculatively, tentatively the 10th edition that we do, if we don't count the fallout of the pandemic cancellations. But yeah, I mean we're doing what we usually do. I mean, we've got a couple of guests lined up. We've got Peter V. Bratt, the fantasy author. We've got Padder Gillen, similarly a fantasy writer. Cheryl Morgan, who's an editor, fan writer, and a person who has a huge amount of fan credibility in the community. We've invited teams from 2 narrative podcasts. One of them is let me read this so I don't get it right, the Shadows at the Door podcast, and the Silt Versus podcasts. We've got Sylvie Poulain from France joining us. We've got Torsten Love joining us. I think they'll be on the stream here tomorrow sometime. We've got Brian Mayer joining us. He's the person who sculpted Darth Vader's helmet and the Stormtrooper armors for Star Wars. And we've got a couple of films. We've got The Redeemers from Finland that'll be playing in the cinemas, which is a film that starts as a role-playing comedy with people throwing D20s and ends up very bloody, it looks like. I've got a streamer. I haven't watched it yet. I've only seen the trailer. But the Redeemers, check the trailer for that. It's a Finnish movie, and it's just on the festival circuit now. It hasn't come out properly yet. We're also showing Wolfkin, which is by a friend of the festival, Jacques Molitor. It's a Luxembourgish film with werewolves. And so we are very happy to be able to show that. That's also still on the festival circuit. That's not going to be out before September, October, November, something like that. They're still working on the release of that. Hopefully, we'll have some more short films to show in the cinemas as well. We've got vendors and artists and craftspeople doing their stuff. We have some cosplay guests in the form of Cap Camphor, I think is the name, and Vastora cosplay from Germany as well. So those two guys are coming over. We have the usual lineup of the Luxembourgish fan clubs, Ghostbusters Luxembourg, Luxembourg's various Star Wars fan clubs. We have a new group of cosplayers, artists, and artisans who have grouped together, young people basically doing all kinds of nerdy things and producing pretty cool things as well. We'll have a photo studio because one of our friends has a photo studio with his wife, and they're going to set that up for people in costume or out of costume to take some shots in a professional setting. In Luxembourg, it's really important that you never forget what the Germans call Speis und Trank, food and drink. So we have
Very
the
nice.
usual food court with cocktail bar and normal bar, so you can get your sausages and your beer. International visitors to Luxembourg keep saying, what is it about Luxembourg and everywhere having beer and sausages served? I always blamed our closeness to Germany on that one, but you can take that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
But yeah, so you can see, you get a feeling for what it's like. I mean, a couple of friends have been shooting cosplay music videos. They're up on YouTube. You get a feeling for what's going on at LuxCon through those as well.
Great. Just to remind on the last part of Janos' question, where do
Yeah,
you see
where do we see it
yourselves
going?
in? Right, where do you see yourselves in, say, 5 to 10 years?
Hopefully doing less
still
work
bleed.
for it, or people to do more of the work still. Yeah, I think we just grow with whatever people bring to us. I think the model is there, just the basic structure is there. People, I think people realize, but people also still need to keep realizing that they can actively contribute to what's going on at LuxCon. They should actively contribute. We're always looking for more people to join us, to do fun things, or even just to sort of join us for a one-off event at one of the LuxCons. But Sandy's got a longer life in front of her. Maybe she has some ideas about the futures as well.
I think we will still be a convention of fans to fans. So
Always.
we won't be always. We will never have the biggest budget like those bigger conventions. We will still be a family event, hopefully. And if there are more people, okay. If there are less, still okay. But and I think LuxCon is one of those events that you shouldn't leave without a good feeling in your tummy. It should be an event that leaves you, yeah, I'm happy. we don't have the biggest guests or the most prestigious locations, or you don't get those funny little goodie bags at our entrance in our box office. But you should leave and tell yourself, yeah, it was fun. It was beautiful. I saw people again that I haven't seen in a year, because LuxCon is just once a year. How dare we? But yeah.
Yeah, why don't we organize LuxCon every month is the question that comes up again and
Yeah.
again and again.
Month,
Whenever it's
weekly.
over, people say like, "Oh, why don't you do this more often?"
Yeah. Mhm.
The work, guys, the work.
We have lives.
we have lives to
Yeah.
live.
That's a great point. Yeah, life.
Cool, awesome. The last two questions, or I guess 3 questions I got for you. The first one would be, any tips for international visitors you've got there? Oh, yes.
Come by train, bus, and
Don't
tram,
drive.
because don't drive. We have free transport.
Ah.
Use the free transport.
Buses, trains, public transport is free in Luxembourg, so you can just sort of
So,
get there
Oh,
For
easily.
real?
Yeah.
yeah.
You don't have to buy tickets to get on a bus or a tram or a train. As soon as you cross the border, you don't have to pay.
could you put in a good work for Germany?
Yeah, could you just
I'm
like write
trying.
to German leadership? That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
It helps having Luxembourg's GDP, I suppose, and a relatively small infrastructure to make it work. I don't know if Deutsche Bahn would be able to do anything with that.
I
But
guess
yeah,
not.
I mean, transport is free, so you can explore Luxembourg even outside of LuxCon. You can stay a little bit longer. Make an argument for the tourism ministry supporting us as well. Yeah, I mean, don't fear the language situation. That's the main thing to take away from. I mean, we are fluent in many different languages, and we will find a way to communicate, because we're all fans, and there's a way to communicate where there's a will, right? And then yeah, just pop on by, come on by, and if you have anything interesting to say, just shoot us an email ahead of time, and we'll see if we can fit you into the program, and then give you a soapbox from which you can talk to the people.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. And inspired by, I hope I pronounce it right, Kisaya, I guess. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. But she or him, sorry, asked, no vacation after convention needed for the team. And I would like to differentiate the question and would like to ask you guys, what do you do after a convention? What do you do
Crying.
to crying?
Okay.
All right.
There's the melancholy Monday normally, where we just sort of pick up tables and sadly move them around and sadly brush some stuff around while we listen to some Gary Newman or some sad music. Yeah, I mean, we've started thinking about 24 already, so there's no rest for the wicked. But yeah, I mean, Con Blues is real. It's real in visitors. It's real in organizers. I think there are pictures from the first convention's teardown on the Monday, when everybody was just lounging around in chairs and just like, wow, we've really done this, but now it's over and we're so sad. It's like, oh, we're waiting for next year. It's gotten a little bit better, because you realize that it just keeps going, and then there's all the other events that we have over the years outside of LuxCon, role-playing events and flea markets and meetings, that sort of stuff. But once the big event is over, you are tired, but you don't realize you're tired until the Tuesday or the Wednesday, when things really start to hurt and the dopamine levels drop pretty harshly. There's I mean, there's no real rest. There's the newcomers, the new volunteers and the new team members. They say, "Oh, the convention is over. I didn't really get to experience it." And that's when I
We
pull up my
never
chair.
saw it.
I pull up my chair and I say, "Gather round, children. You don't organize a convention to experience it. You organize. That's why you go to other people's conventions to experience it. But yeah, I mean, you do it, and then the good thing is that now there's loads of photos that get posted on the days and on the week afterwards. So you get to look through social media and just look at all of the photos that are posted there, and all of the traditional media, and just like, oh, cool, that costume was there too. I never saw that. Or hey, my friend was there. I never got to meet them because I was running around like crazy. There's that, but I think that's what every convention runner all over the world experiences. That once the convention is over, you get to sit down and watch the videos and the photos of the event, and realize that, hey, cool, so many people had so much fun.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah, absolutely.
reminiscing in it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, we got to wrap it up. Sadly, it was a pleasure to talking to you guys. It was awesome. Thank you very much.
Well,
But I got a
thanks for
last
having us.
question for you guys.
Hey, question! Woo!
Yay! And that would be, where do you guys, or no, no, let's just ask another question. Got another idea. Do you have any last words for the viewership that you would want to tell at this point and at the end of the stream?
Sandy?
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
The fish.
Yeah, no, thanks to you, thanks to Torsten and
Thanks
Raz,
to
thank you to GaryCon as well for putting this together. I mean, Lux Con is truly humbled by being on the GaryCon stream, because there was that mythical man, Gary Gygax, who kind of launched into things, and among other people is one of the giants whose shoulders we all stand on. Stan Lee and the rest of the gang, all up there. And if not for them, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be inspired to organize events like we do in Luxembourg, in Belgium, in France, in Germany. Yeah, I mean, we are an event that is run by fans, for fans, and we hope that that's going to stay that way, and we hope that many fans will join us. And I know that DreieichCon does the same, and I know that many other events all over the world do the very same thing, and I think that's what this community is really thriving on.
Yeah. Great last words. Thank you very much for doing your great work and for providing a place where people can gather and do the greatest thing in the world, sharing. And thank you for joining us in this interview. And I just got to ask Janos a last question. Do you have any last words for our viewership?
Me?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Ah,
It's your chance to say something to the world, right?
Spotlight
The big, great
shifted.
world. Spotlight shifted.
yeah.
No
thank you.
pressure. No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
I think the last words have to be, I hope we all see each other at LuxCon this
Oh,
or
sure.
next year. It's not that far from us, so maybe.
Right. Maybe.
Absolutely. Swing on by. We'd love to have you.
Thank you very much.
Exactly.
All right, then. Thank you, Janos. Thank you, you too. And I would say this was the interview from GaryCon about LuxCon. And I wish you a great start, end of the day. I don't know which time it is right now in the US. I guess it's nighttime, right? So
It
have
is
a good
nighttime
night.
over there, yeah.
So have a good night,
Good
and we'll see
night.
you. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye.
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 Let's see you get out of this. Blast it! This is not over. Die! This time you will fall before my might. Come on. Yes!